Thanks for staying with us on the marketplace. First up, the International Monetary Fund is expressing worry about the expected slowdown of Ghana's growth rate. The fund's latest World Economic Outlook report also forecasts a slowdown in economic growth across the globe. It therefore warns of more challenging times for emerging economies going forward. Chief economist at the IMF, Pierre-Olivier, explained that the tightening of policy rates by central banks in the U.S. and other developed economies will have a negative impact on emerging markets.
Think about the downside risk that we're facing in the coming month and year, the financial tightening, which has been relatively orderly in its impact on especially emerging market economies up until now. There's been a lot of differentiation. Spreads have been going up. Interest rates at which countries borrow have been going up. Currencies have been depreciating. But there's still a lot of market differentiation between, for instance, commodity exporters versus commodity importers. Going forward, however, it's very clear that the tightening in the by the major central banks is going to have continued effects on the rest of the world. And we can think about basically three channels. First, there is going to be reduced demand and economic activity at the global level. That's going to weigh down on countries that rely a lot on the export sector for their growth. That's going to affect them through this channel. The tightening in the U.S. and other central banks around the world is also leading to a major appreciation of the U.S. dollar against emerging market currencies, and that is increasing inflation pressures in those countries. So these countries are facing higher inflation numbers because there is imported inflation. All the price of the imported goods are rising faster because they are expressed in dollars. And then there is just the fact that when we have a cycle like this, there is in general what we call a flight to safety. There is a general tendency by investors to maybe move away from emerging market economies and seek safe havens, invest in U.S. treasuries or in other safe assets around the world. We've seen the capital flows moving out of emerging markets in the last 4 or 5 months. It's been quite persistent. There's been a lot of capital outflow. As I said, it's been quite orderly until now, but it's adding pressure on domestic and sovereign rates, and that's reducing fiscal space. That's also making it harder for the private sector to also finance itself. So all of these things are going to weigh down on emerging market economies, which so far have been, as I've said, has been quite orderly. A number of emerging market economies have improved their policy frameworks, the way they implement monetary policy, the way they deploy other instruments, macroprudential instruments, to guarantee the stability of their financial sector. So things have not been too disorderly up until now. But of course, we are concerned as to whether this might continue in the future.
That was Chief Economist with the IMF, Pierre-Olivier there. Well, let's speak with financial analyst and management consultant, Christian Techijan, who joins us for more on this. I just need to point out that the IMF's growth target for Ghana, revised growth target, is pegged at 3.6%. And now we had the finance minister earlier this week revised our growth target as well from 5.8% to 3.7%. I want to ask you, first of all, Christian, and welcome to the marketplace, your first time on the show. How realistic is this revised growth target for Ghana?
Thank you very much, Daryl, for having me on your program. For me, we are all very much aware of happenings across the globe, and we've had a number of economic targets being reviewed, and even in the strongest of economies like the USA and the Eurozone. Globally, the IMF is expecting the world economy to grow only by about 3.2% in terms of GDP, from the earlier projection in 2021 of 6.1, which is just about 50% downward revision. With sub-Saharan Africa, it is expected to grow its GDP by about 3.8%, and it came as no surprise with the government reviewing Ghana's GDP growth from the expected 5.8 to the current projection of about 3.7. On the side of inflation, it is also expected to reduce from the June figure of 29.8% to 28.5%, which is very marginal from the 8% target government had set earlier. And for me, this will not really do that much in affecting the livelihood of Ghanaians. I would say there is, however, an upbeat with the government expected to improve on its fiscal deficit. And I'm suspecting this is coming from the backdrop of the improved revenue generation, as well as the imminent intervention from the IMF. So, Daryl, in all of these, if you want to baseline and benchmark these figures, I'm of the strong belief that these targets are actually achievable.
And on what basis, again, I need to ask you, do you think this is achievable? Looking at the mid-year review, the presentation by the finance minister, do you see that they are investing in the right areas of the economy to meet this target?
Yes, government has set out certain strategies to improve upon its income generation. And for me, those strategies are workable. And with the imminent intervention from the IMF that is having the effects to show up what our city is doing, I'm sure they should be able to achieve it comfortably. Because for me, a lot of some of these fundamentals are dependent on the how our interest rates are and how our FX in terms of our cedis performing against the major currencies, including the USD. So once we have a buffer that is coming from the IMF, I'm sure it will make our cedis stabilize, and we can kick on from there to improve upon the other fundamentals.
Well, the submission from the IMF chief economist makes mention of the global economic slowdown. So it's not just Ghana in this, it's a global problem. And the IMF raises an important warning that the crisis we are seeing across the globe, the impact is going to be felt by emerging economies like Ghana. So how do we navigate those external factors?
There are a number of sectors that I would say government hasn't really looked at it. If you look at the import base of the country, is quite small. I'm sure the 1D1F project that the government started, from now we should be seeing some response in terms of impact that is coming from there. There is also the non-traditional exports, including the cashew, which I believe last year did better than the previous years. And government has set out certain strategies that is going to improve upon its production and the consequent trade. So I'm upbeat with those strategies being put in place, coupled with the income generation mechanisms that the government is actually putting in place. Yeah, they should be pretty achievable.
Christian Techi-Jan, great to speak with you for the first time on the marketplace. Hope to speak with you another time. Thanks for your thoughts this afternoon. Well, women peasant farmers in the Upper East region are calling on government to strictly enforce the 30% allocation of subsidized fertilizer for women farmers as stipulated in the implementation guidelines for fertilizer subsidy program. They say women farmers have always struggled to get access to government subsidized fertilizers because their male counterparts allegedly bully them into forfeiting their share of the fertilizers at the distribution points. With the farming season for this year already in progress across the country, the situation of these women farmers is likely to be worsened if government does not intervene. JoyNews' Upper East region correspondent Albert Sori has been engaging some women farmers and came through with this report.
The government of Ghana has been implementing the National Fertilizer Subsidy Program to support its flagship Planting for Food and Jobs program to boost agricultural productivity and improve the living conditions of smallholder farmers across the country. Under the program, fertilizers are provided for the smallholder farmers at a subsidized price up to 50%. The fertilizers are allocated and distributed to farmers in districts across the country. The implementation plan for the fertilizer subsidy program makes a provision for 30% of the fertilizers to be allocated to women farmers. But according to some of these women farmers, the allocation has never been made for them. Rather, they often go to the distribution points and struggle with their male counterparts who more often than not bully them into forfeiting their share of the fertilizers.
In fact, when I got there, a lot of women were there and they were not getting the fertilizer. But I went inside, I was able to go inside, and all they could tell me was that the fertilizer was finished. Because they knew that if they had told me to go away or even to chase me or do something that was not proper, they will hear me on air. So all they said was that the fertilizer was finished.
Gilberta Akopa is a farmer based in the Boko West district of the Upper East region. She is also the chairperson for the peasant farmers in her district. For women farmers like her, getting fertilizers in time is the key to getting good yields at the end of the farming season. But according to her, in the past seasons, they rarely got the fertilizers, and even if they did, it came with a lot of struggle.
Women are vulnerable, and so last year, for you to be able to get the government subsidy fertilizer, it was a big hell. It was a big hell. Even if you heard that the fertilizer was in a particular shop and you went there, people went there to sleep, you will queue. When you get there, they will push you away because you are not strong. So it was very difficult for women actually to get subsidy fertilizer. It has been like that.
At Korania, in the Kassena-Nankana municipality, women rice farmers have faced similar challenges. Janet Atimolga is a rice farmer.
I went there with my money, but when the men came, when it got into my time and I'm to go and pick my own, they push me, they even pull me back. So I forced myself and enter. 1 man step on my leg. A pregnant woman, they even push that woman. Can you imagine a woman with a woman who is pregnant and he needs 10 or 4 to even go and use? The men will push her away and then hijack everything.
Another rice farmer, Ajwa Akansa, shares her experience in her efforts to get the government subsidized fertilizer last year.
And when the men are stronger than the women, so it's always difficult for us to get it. They were pushing us, and we felt that we were always struggling, but still will not get. So it's always difficult for us to get the fertilizer.
According to the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, the fertilizer subsidy shortages experienced in 2021 are likely to escalate this year as the prices of fertilizers have shot up and access to fertilizer will become more difficult, largely due to the Russia-Ukraine war. Dr. Charles Inyaba is the Executive Director for the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana.
Women are usually neglected when it comes to access to subsidized fertilizer. As part of the implementation plan for the fertilizer subsidy program, 30% allocation is supposed to go to the women. But we found out that during the implementation, these provisions are usually neglected. And we are also foreseeing that the fertilizer subsidy shortages that we experienced in 2021 is likely to escalate in 2022. Now the fear is also that now that there is this conflict between Ukraine and Russia, and we know that most countries where fertilizer is manufactured is coming from getting their natural gas from Russia, and those countries have already placed economic bans on Russia. It means that the situation is going to be worse.
The women farmers want government to intervene by getting the fertilizer distributors to adhere to the implementation guidelines for the fertilizer subsidy program, which makes a provision for 30% of fertilizers to be allocated to women farmers.
We didn't know that when the fertilizer comes to the district, women are supposed to access 30% of the fertilizer. Because they knew, we didn't know, they cheated us on that. We couldn't talk for our 30%.
What I want government to do or people to do for we the women is, if the fertilizer is coming, they should divide the fertilizer. That this one is going to the women and this one is going to the men. If they divide our fertilizer for us and the women know that if you go here, you go and pick your fertilizer, or you go here, you go and buy your fertilizer, I think it's good for us.
For now, these women peasant farmers may just have to start bracing themselves for another difficult farming season. For JoyNews, Albert Sorry, reporting from Bolgatanga.
And that is pretty unfortunate. I mean, if we have to even talk about our food security challenges, we don't have to think about this. Well, joining me in studio, Enyunam Manyel, who is a host of the Ghanaian Farmer on the Joy Prime, to discuss her experience in Rwanda. She's been to Rwanda. She's learned a lot about how they're investing in agro-processing. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but I'd like to pick your reaction to this story because you have a lot to say about what you just saw.
Of course, Daryl. So what I'm saying is that our farmers, they have to start speaking out. They have to probe further when exactly it has to do with things that matters or relate to your sector or your scope of work. So she was just saying she didn't know that 30% of women are supposed to have access to the subsidized fertilizers that comes to the district. So now you know. Let's see if the story will change coming next year. You know, sitting at one place, if you're not proactive, things would always pass you by. So our farmers are, I don't know if I should say they are comfortable or because they can afford the fertilizer themselves. So at times, what is due you, you don't take the necessary steps to have access to it. So it's unfortunate they are going through this, men pushing them down and all that, you're not getting what is due them. But it's unfortunate. But
you're
things
telling
have
me
to
about
change.
the fertilizer subsidy program in Rwanda and how they use technology to track distribution. Tell us more.
Yes, so I had the chance to speak with the communication director, Kibuka, Eugene, and Minagri, that's how they call it, Ministry of Food and Animal Resources. And I was asking him, back in Ghana, we have a system where farmers start to enjoy free or subsidized fertilizer, not free, but subsidized fertilizer. And they say, okay, we also have the system, however, we're having some challenges. So what we did was to adopt a technology that when the fertilizers are arrived in the various districts, every number or quantity of fertilizer is in the system. So each and every other farmer who gets a bag or two fertilizer, it keeps recording till the fertilizer is exhausted. So nobody has the chance to pass one back door or pass two back door. So it's about time that we also adapt some systems to keep track.
Would that be difficult to implement here in Ghana?
I don't think it is, because we have app developers who are here developing apps to help in the development of agriculture. So it's about time we sit down with one of these app developers and find out, this is a system we have. How can you help us keep track of each and every fertilizer or any agrochemical or agro input that is meant to be distributed across nationwide? And I'm sure we'll make headway.
I think what is missing when it comes to agriculture in Ghana is a failure to utilize technology to sort of boost production.
Exactly.
And that is a major failure on our part. But let's talk about your trip to Rwanda. What did you discover, I mean, that you feel that we are lacking here in Ghana?
Thank you very much. So the Ghanaian Farmer African Tour was an initiative after we've been in Ghana recording and traveling around for almost 2 years. And the team sat together and we're like, look, we have to go to other parts of the African countries to visit them and understand the system. What are the methods? What are the technology, value addition? What are they doing differently? How can our farmers watch these footages and get to learn? Or probably stakeholders. And so arriving in Rwanda was an eye-opening. First of all, we look at some similarities. What kind of crops do they grow there that we also have here? We have rice, maize, potato, French beans. We have a couple of things in common. Now, we also look at the seasons. Over there, they have 4 seasons. We have 2 seasons. Even here is the southern that have 2. In the northern, we have just 1 season. Now, the question is, after these crops are harvested, what happens? So over there, when the crops are harvested, there's a quantity that is consumed in the local market. Now, there's a chunk, almost 60 to 65% is exported. However, the difference they are making is that these crops or these whatever it is are not exported in a raw state. They add value to it. So I got a chance to interview Gorilla Coffee, the marketing manager, and my question to him was, why does Rwanda seek to be paying attention to value addition? He says, listen, if we export these crops, our coffee and tea, they are major export. If we export it, we might come back with just a $7 per 1 kilo. However, if we add value, we get $10, so $3 difference. And perhaps we will not be proud to produce coffee here in Rwanda, send it to a foreigner to go and add value and bring it back for us to drink. We will not be proud of it. So that is the mindset This is why
That's the point we have made over the years, that we can't keep producing the raw state without adding value. And I don't know why it is difficult for us as a country to start doing that. What else did you learn?
Also, the youth in agriculture. So they are called Rwanda Youth in Agribusiness. And we have youth in agriculture here in Ghana. So the difference with youth in agriculture is that they have leverage on developmental partners in Rwanda. So we have all these guys here. The MasterCard, I don't want to promote anybody. All these they are all here. These youth have been connected through the facilitation of the ministry to these people. So they get to know grants that are available, what projects are the grants targeting, what proposals should you write and defend them. So the mini factories that process crops like pumpkin, I'm sure you know pumpkin.
Yeah.
I saw it in Cape Coast, and all we do is after it's harvested, we get soup and that's it. But over there, you get to see pumpkin cookies, you get to see pumpkin oil, and many other things. Avocado, you only enjoy your wache and your kenke with avocado. But over there, you get to see avocado body cream, avocado cooking oil. So the question I asked myself, how did you come by the funding? And they tell you, listen, we leverage on these developmental partners. We write proposals. We participate in challenge. We do business pitch. So Ghanaian youth, it's about time we stop sitting down, talking to plenty. Government, the truth is government cannot do it all. But can we approach these people and find out what are the grants available? What are they targeting? What's the focus? How can we participate? Because these grants, they don't give you the physical cash. Because listen, Daryl, if the physical cash is given to most Ghanaian youth, the moment you have the money, that's a business idea. It's even different from what I had. Let me change my mind. But what they do is that the funding gets to establish the factory for you. So what you do is that you now form, so there are a lot of cooperative, effective ones for that matter, in Rwanda. So when they harvest the crops, they take it to the factory and sell it. At the end of the day, post-harvest loss is very minimal. Farmers are getting their money to take care of themselves and their family. Everybody is smiling. That is the amazing thing that I have discovered in Rwanda.
I have to move on to the next segment, but thank you so much, Manya, for this. I'm sure you're going to document everything that you've discovered on your show, The Ghanaian Farmer. It's on Joy Prime.
Of course. Every Monday, 1:30, you should tune into Joy Prime and learn about agriculture. You'll be inspired and empowered to take a journey in this landscape. You're
doing a great job. Thank you very much. Well, time to talk tech. Joining us on Zoom, Henry Kobler, lead Eyes of Africa. Great to see you this Wednesday afternoon. Let's talk about something interesting, Henry. Amazon taking legal action against administrators of more than 10,000 Facebook groups. It says that the groups are generating fake reviews on Amazon marketplaces in the US, UK, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, and Japan. Well, there's no mention of Ghana for that matter. But I just find it interesting, this thing that is going on, and wondering, do we have similar experiences here in Ghana, Henry?
Yes, I'm Daryl. So we have quite a lot of experience with that in Ghana. I think that if you are very familiar with Facebook groups, you'd realize that in Ghana, there are quite a number of people that are using these groups to definitely solicit for views, comments, shares, likes, and all the sorts. The people are using it to be promoting TV shows, radio shows. Quite a lot of it is in promotion in Ghana. And so the way it works really is that because Facebook groups is quite easy to join in quite a lot of people, you could definitely have almost about 200,000 people in a group. And every kind of conversations could definitely be going on. They could actually privatize the group as well. And so much of the conversations might just be tribute to the people that are in. I understand why Amazon is really looking at this and taking legal actions. I mean, generally, it actually influences the way the platform seeks to push itself and its products to people, definitely, and how buyers and sellers get to engage on the platform, which is very important in terms of making sure that there's a fairness, some level of fairness in there. But in Ghana, I think that it works a lot more in terms of product branding and all of those things, products being sold up and down there. So quite a lot of people always getting scammed on these groups, generally, but relatively who are going to report to. And so it's just left out to people to find their ways on these groups. But I think that Amazon is taking a good step in finding ways to catch some of these influences, which actually directs the their buyer mindset to products which they might not necessarily want to buy.
And in a minute, Henry, how can consumers detect fake reviews? I mean, if I should go on social media, how can I tell this is fake?
You might not necessarily be able to tell, but I think that in terms of taking a closer look, I think that when you're buying things from either Amazon, Alibaba, I mean, any of these online platforms, what you could definitely be looking at is trying to look at and read the reviews. I mean, most of it, you have to take a look at the pictures that they are posting to be sure that the products have reached the buyers for them to be making the closer reviews to which they're mentioning. If it's just comments without pictures, it's one of the red flags for you to see.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Henry. That's the marketplace, everyone. Thanks for watching. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. We'll be back same time tomorrow.